Hello coaches and welcome to this Give and Go Live. My name's David Newberry, I'm the e-learning coordinator and I'm joined by my co-host Ian Barker. Hello Ian.
Hi David, greetings from Kansas City, Missouri.
So Ian, today's activity is a defensive warm-up and we are looking at the roles of the first and second defender. And let's talk a little bit about what we see here in our first diagram. As you can see, there are 4 mannequins that are set approximately 20 yards apart and on opposite angles. So we have each of the mannequins placed centrally on each of the lines. And what happens in this activity is the coach will pass the first ball out to the first player in the line opposite. And as that player receives the ball, the defender from the opposite mannequin will run out and close down space so that they are within a couple of yards. And to begin with, this is a passive activity. So Ian, let's talk about what we see here in terms of coaching points and methods.
Sure. So one thing I would just say to the audience is if you have quick goal mannequins, that's fantastic. If you don't, you can use a flag. You could just have them step around cones, but the mannequins really create a nice visual. So that was just one quick thought there. The first principle of defending that we'd like to address here is pressure. And so what we want this player to do is make this run along the blue arrow as the ball is traveling. And their objective is to arrive at the ball carrier as the ball carrier receives the ball. Right now, they're not trying to win it. But they're trying to get there quickly, get within a closing distance. So, maybe a yard and a half. And then we want them to bend their knees, angle their feet, and just try to get into that defensive posture. So this is very much a fundamental defending principle, initial defending principle, posture type activity.
And this is an excellent activity if you're going to teach the technique of defending. So coaches, as you're running through this warm-up, don't forget to provide players with a little bit of guidance on their positioning as Ian just described. So if you recall in the first diagram, the pass came from the coach into the feet of the first receiver and the defender ran in from the opposite mannequin in order to apply pressure. This sequence now continues with the player receiving the ball, passing the ball to the right and running to the left. So this is the sequence and it's the sequence for every player. So again, the player receiving the ball passes to the right to the next player to the right and then makes a run to the line or the back of the line to the left-hand side. So that is the sequence to begin with. As the ball is shifted, and of course once this player receives the ball, then they will also pass to the right. As the ball is passed to the right, as before, the defender from the opposite mannequin will then close down space and apply pressure as the ball arrives to the next receiver. So Ian, can we talk a little bit about what we see in this diagram?
Sure. So even though the first defender here, the person that starts as the defender, is aware that the pass must go to the right because that is the condition of the activity right now. It's quite prescribed. What we can ask this player to do is to start to maybe bend their run a little bit and come in at an angle which mirrors the forcing of the play to the right. So we know the ball's going to go to the right, but we're going to have that player shape as if they're forcing it to the right. So now they've got there as the ball is traveling, they've got within a touch-size distance, they've got ever so slightly set to one side to force the action here. And again, because this is currently a prescribed passing moment, this player is not overly anticipating, but knows where the ball's coming. So then they're ready to make up ground as the ball is traveling for the next sequence and try to force the ball or shape to force the ball to the right per the coach's instruction.
So with the passes made to the right, we'll end up getting into a pattern with the passes all moving to the right, and that will continue until the coach is ready to change the direction. Of course, the change of direction will be to the left, and so we should certainly work both ways around the area. And as the ball moves to the next receiving player, of course, the next defending player will run out. Once the ball has been passed, so in this case, this defender, once that ball has been passed, the defender will move in behind the mannequin that they've just defended. So that is the rotation for the defender. So as we move from right to begin with, then we go to the left, and then the third sequence progression will be random. So as you can see here, the defender has moved into a position to essentially cut off a pass to the right. So because it's random conditions, the player on the ball, the receiving player, can now pass to the left. The one restriction is they cannot pass opposite line. They must pass either to the left or to the right. And the job of the defenders now is to make play predictable. So as the pass is made to the left, the defender's done a good job of cutting out the pass to the right. The next defender is on their toes and ready to respond as the ball is passed to the left-hand side. So Ian, let's look at the final diagram.
Sure, thanks, David. So very much, coaches, this is a warm-up activity, and I would probably start this off where there is no attempt to win the ball, but simply to mirror good defending shape and principles. And then subsequently, you'll get into some keep away activities where there'll be turnovers of the ball. What's really interesting now is, because of the unpredictability and the person with the ball can choose to go left or right, essentially what you're looking at is the pressure coming from here, but now the player here and the player here have to determine if they're going to be the next ones to go. So they have to now read this movement. So if we see here this player has moved, the key indication is to this player that the ball will probably get shifted to the left, and so they must be ready to go. If, however, this player had chosen to shape this way, it would be an indication to the defender coming from here that the ball was probably going to go to the right. So what we've got now is we've got players reacting to real pictures, and the real picture comes primarily from the pressure applied by the first defender, and then the second defender, who that is determined by the shape of that movement.
Thanks, Ian. So coaches, this is a great way to not only warm up, we've got some passing, we've got receiving, but of course now we've got the opportunity to teach our defenders both the first defender role of pressure and the second defending role of cover, and the movement of those two players back and forth in order to apply pressure and cover. So it can become quite a high technical activity as well as a warm-up. So thanks very much, Ian, for your time. Coaches, please download the activity plan to the right-hand side if you're following this through Webinar Jam. And thanks very much, and we look forward to having you join us in the next Give and Go Live.